So my name is Anita Schjøll Brede. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Iris.ai and Project IRE. And we are working with academics and researchers to change the way academic publishing is done. And a little bit of background and context, we're a 3-year-old AI startup. We have a couple of million in VC funding. And we've been building tools, AI-based tools for academics and researchers, both in academia and industry for the last few years. Project IRE, which is the blockchain project that we're launching now, is a new project where we're aiming at opening up and validating scientific research for the world.
Stuff. You've touched a little bit on this already, but let's go a bit more into depth. How can companies such as Iris.ai help benefit other businesses in terms of setting up blockchain technology if they were to do something like this?
So I think you need to repeat that question.
I'll rephrase that. Say a student or a developer, aspiring developer, wants to set up a company such as yours, not such as your, or someone in your field, as it were. How can blockchain technology benefit them that no other technology could?
So I think blockchain technology is usable to solve very specific problems, and I'm personally very technology agnostic. You identify your problem first and you figure out what problem you really want to solve. In our case specifically, the industry that we're working to fix, the incentive structure is broken, and we needed to recreate that from scratch. And we realized that the people who hold the current incentive structure, so the academic publishing houses in our case, they're not willing to work on creating a new incentive structure, which means we had to do it from scratch. And that is an area that lends itself really well to blockchain, where we have the freedom to recreate an economic model all the way from the drawing board, blank sheet of paper. How do we want this economic model to look like in an ideal world? And then build the economic model and their infrastructure, and then actually issue a token with that economic model in the bottom. And that's one kind of way of thinking about blockchain that I think is very useful.
So tell me what's so unique about Iris.ai over every other company within your realm, within your space?
So the thing that we've found a solution to, which is something I think a lot of blockchain startups at large is struggling with, is a solution to the chicken and egg problem, right? So you're like, I want to build this marketplace, I want to issue this token related to this service or product or whatever it is. And in most of these instances, you have a marketplace solution. However your tokenomics is structured, you have people who want to spend money and you have people who want to offer their products or services. And in most cases, you don't have a marketplace until you have both sides of it, right? Both the buyer or the supply and demand side. And so what we've been able to do is find a way to break into that market. And what we're doing is that we're building this, what we call a knowledge validation engine, which is a machine learning engine that will be used as the kind of driving the sales, and that in itself holds value so that we can actually funnel corporate R&D money into the community, into the value of the token before anyone has ever published with the system, right? Because in our case, we can't have academics, there's no way to get academics to publish on the system until there's a lot of content on the system, and we don't get a lot of content on the system until academics publish on the system. But by building this engine in the middle, we've actually found a solution to that chicken and egg problem, which is something I think a lot of blockchain startups really need to think through, is how you're going to break into that market.
Following on from what you were saying at the moment in terms of for solving a chicken and egg problem, do you think that is what blockchain technology provides? It provides a solution, more solutions to problems, and because of this, is that why it's so vital at a time like this?
So it solves some problems. I think the current blockchain space, to be honest, I think there's a lot of people trying to use blockchain to solve problems that isn't. Blockchain is just a technology, right? We're talking a fancy way of doing timestamping of documents. Really, that's what it's about. And I think there's this idea that, let's do dating on the blockchain, let's do this. And I'm like, there's a lot of really bad ideas. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is, is the problem that you're trying to solve of such a nature that blockchain as a technology is important. So do you deal with documents where you need an immutable timestamp? Are you dealing with an economic incentive model where fiat currency just isn't enough? So in our case, we're working with a two-sided marketplace with no set prices, where having a token that can kind of build its own price over time, that becomes very valuable. So do you have a problem that lends itself well to blockchain as a solution? That kind of has to be the starting point. If you start with like, blockchain is really cool tech, what can we use it for? You're starting in the wrong end, in my opinion.
Will the technology applied with Iris.ai be available to use with developers or anyone else like wants to get into this space, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so I mean, with Iris.ai, we have two pieces of technology. Of course, it's the blockchain side of it, and it's the AI side of it, and both of those are very available, open source, and available to anyone who wants to contribute. So there's a number of ways one can get involved. It is all open source. Anyone who contributes will either earn tokens in the token model, but also from the start, the money raised through the fundraising round and the token sale, all of that money will be spent to actually build the machine learning tools. So developers can get involved either on that side or on the blockchain side. And we have no intention of building this ourselves. We're building a community of smart-driven people who are going to be part of doing that. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities moving forward to be part of this.
Sounds good. In terms of the sustainability of blockchain, and I think you've touched on this a little bit with, does it make sense to use it on a dating thing or not, and such and such. Do you think this will be able to, sustain itself, or will there be new models of blockchain 2.0, 3.0 in the years to come? Do you think this model is just going to stay the way it is, or it's just going to, exponentially grow and upgrade itself?
I think we're going to see so many changes over the next few years, whether we're talking about transactions per second or the energy levels required to run the systems or whatever it is. We're going to see so many iterations. We're going to see so many failed attempts, both on the app side and on the protocol layer side. Like, we've just seen the tiny little beginning. That's my sense. Like, where we're at right now, and I know this is said by a million people before, but it's kind of internet 1996, or maybe we're getting towards 7, and there is just like a massive amount of change that will happen over the next few years, probably faster than the internet developed. I also hope that the kind of current slowness of the market is going to be faster over than it was with the early days of the internet, and that we're going to shake out the terrible players sooner and faster than we were with the early days of the internet. So yes, we're going to see massive amounts of change really, really quickly, and hopefully also solve some of the issues that we're facing right now with slowness, with high cost of transactions, with the high usage of energy, and its impact on our environment, etc.
The next question, actually, I was going to ask where we are right now with blockchain space, but I suppose you already answered that already. We're in 1996, 97. It's like, would you agree in saying we're at the Web 1.0 at this point, which is similar to blockchain, I suppose?
So I definitely think so. On the other hand, I think it's real easy to compare with the past, but I think we also need to be mindful about it, because fact is that we can't expect the exact same thing to happen, because the world looks different. Like, we have the internet. That will mean that how blockchain develops is going to look radically different than the internet, because with the internet we didn't have the internet. That was a silly way to say it, but I think we're going to see that it doesn't necessarily develop at the same speed. I think it's going to develop faster. I think it's going to move quicker. But as a general comparison, yes, I think that's fair to say.
Okay. What are your thoughts on cryptocurrencies? The Bitcoin might be the obvious one. It's seen as the supposed gold standard, but what do you think about other coins such as Ethereum and such and such?
Again, I think we're so early in the development of this space, so any predictions are, I think all predictions at this point are going to be wrong. When it comes to Bitcoin, people still claim it's going to go to 100K, and people still say it's going to die, and I honestly think it can flip both ways. Though Bitcoin with kind of if you think about it as gold, it has like more potential for stability. But again, that can be an entirely, like, I think all of those three scenarios are actually quite feasible. What we're seeing now at this point of time is, of course, a lot of investors kind of running away, and they got in at 15K, and now they're like, oh, damn it. And so I think we're, depends, maybe we'll see an upswing where people get excited again and hope to get in. Personally, I find the speculators that do just literally buy and sell Bitcoin and nothing else, I find that a little bit sickening. I don't like, that's not what this is for. This is not what we're attempting to do here. I am not a personal fan. I think bringing in banking worst practices into crypto is a terrible idea, and we should have learned better. We don't need to make derivative products out of altcoins and sell them back to people. Like, we don't need to do that, right? We've seen how that doesn't work in the banking industry, as a very generalization, of course. So it's really, I am not an expert. I do not, claim to want to make any big predictions. It's going to be really interesting to follow the next few years.
So do you have any advice for our students watching at all that you'd like to share with them?
So kind of as I said from the get-go, like, don't like, I like blockchain. I want to build a blockchain application. Let's find something to build. I would rather say, like, pick a problem, fall in love with that problem, and set out to change that problem and fix that problem. And if that is a problem that can be solved with blockchain, that's great, right? If it's not, then don't use blockchain to solve that problem. That's kind of the first one. I think that's very vital. Secondly, just go out and try. It's a fun space. It's a little bit of a Wild West. It was more, perhaps, and now it's maybe a little bit more of a bubble, a little bit more of kind of, again, Silicon Valley 2000, 1999. Maybe we're looking towards that. It's fun. Like, go out there, have fun, solve some real problems. Don't do dating on the blockchain. Solve some real problems.
Well, I almost disagree with you a little bit, because when you look at Tinder for instance, that could be quite beneficial for a blockchain platform, would it not?
I'm just, there's so many dating apps, and there's, do you really want records to be permanently out there forever? And I use it as a silly example. Like, there's so many other problems out there that can be so eloquently and beautifully solved, and things like dating, it pops up as the one example I keep coming back to, because it just sounds like a terrible idea to have an immutable record of all of your bad dates on the blockchain. That but again, if someone has a brilliant idea and a great concept that creates a new economy around dating, but do we really want economy around dating? Anyway, I use it as a silly example, and I'm not saying that is the worst of all, but there are definitely a lot of use cases where, like, really we don't need an expensive, slow, energy consuming way of storing those records. Like, that's my take on it. Again, it's not, for me, it's not a technology that lends itself to every single business case out there. And I think it's understanding the difference between what needs a more expensive and slower piece of technology that is decentralized and what doesn't need it. And you might find use cases in dating that actually needs it. I haven't seen one yet.
So to wrap this up, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share that we may or may not have touched upon?
Keep a reality in things. This is a field that is early. It's super exciting, and it's going to be a long road ahead. So, like, hold on and sit tight and stay in it for the long run.
Thank you so much. But